What purpose does the gentleman from Massachusetts seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion to recommit at the desk.
Is the gentleman opposed to the bill?
I am opposed in its current form.
The gentleman qualifies. The clerk will report the motion.
Mr. McGovern of Massachusetts moves to recommit the bill H.R. 953 to the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure with instructions to report the same back to the House forthwith with the following amendment. At the end, add the following. Section 4, protecting American families from special interests seeking to undermine public health through political contributions.
The clerk will suspend. Gentleman is correct. The House is not in order. The House will be in order. Members, please take your seats. Members, please remove your conversation from the House floor. The House will be in order. The House will be in order. The House will be in order. Members, please remove your conversation from the House floor. The House will be in order. Clerk will proceed.
This Act, including the amendments made by this Act, shall not apply to the discharge of a pesticide if the manufacturer or distributor of the pesticide has made a political contribution to the President or to any federal official charged with registration, regulation, or approval of the use of the pesticide.
The House will be in order. The House will be in order. Members, please remove your conversation from the House floor. The House will be in order. The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is the final amendment to the bill, which will not kill the bill or send it back to committee. If adopted, the bill will immediately proceed to final passage as amended. Mr. Speaker, I regret to say that Republicans are again bending over backwards to help corporations and the wealthiest among us while ignoring science and leaving hardworking American families to suffer the consequences. This administration's decisions have placed special interests and their financial contributions ahead of the health and the safety of our citizens, and this Republican-led House has been complicit. Earlier this year, a toxic chemical manufacturer convinced the Trump administration to discard decades of scientific research just so they could continue to profit off of chlorpyrifos, a pesticide that has been proven to be harmful to human beings, especially infants and children. The pesticide was well on its way to being banned by the EPA, which said in 2015 that it could not be declared safe for human health and for the environment. But the pesticide manufacturer wrote a check for $1 million to President Trump's inaugural committee, and just weeks later, the proposed ban on the pesticide was magically reversed. It is amazing how that worked out.
Gentleman will suspend. Gentleman is correct. The House is not in order. The House will be in order. Members, please remove your conversation from the House floor. The House will be in order. The House will be in order. Gentleman from Massachusetts is
What
recognized.
I'm wondering is, did President Trump and the Republicans in Congress think we wouldn't notice? Did they think the American people would be okay with them knowingly allowing a dangerous pesticide to be used on farms and infect our food supply? Republicans should be ashamed of this blatant disregard for the health of the families they were elected to represent. In 2000, the EPA banned most home uses of the chemical, citing risks to children, yet it continues to be used in agriculture production across this country. Does this really sound like something that should be used on the food we feed our kids? On the campaign trail and in the White House, President Trump has made clear that he will always side with deep-pocketed polluters and corporations over the health and safety of families. In January 2017, Dow Chemical was reported to contribute $1 million to President Trump's inaugural committee. The CEO of Dow Chemical was a frequent guest of President-elect Trump, including at an appearance at a post-election rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Then, in March 2017, EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt signed an order reversing the ban on the pesticide. Also, in March 2017, Scott Pruitt signed an order reversing the ban on this pesticide, suggesting in a statement that, quote, by reversing the previous administration's step, to ban one of the most widely used pesticides in the world, we are returning to using sound science in decision-making rather than predetermined results, end quote. Public health advocacy groups strongly disagree, not to mention conservation organizations. And, Mr. Speaker, you know what? I think I trust public health experts when it comes to protecting our families over Administrator Pruitt, who sued the EPA at least 14 times as Oklahoma's Attorney General, opposing important protections for our air and our water. Talk about the fox guarding the hen house. Mr. Speaker, we were not sent here to auction off the health and safety of millions of Americans to the highest bidder. Every day, the Trump administration gets more brazen with their giveaways to special interests, raising serious questions about corruption and conflicts of interest. Donald Trump promised to drain the swamp. He's created a cesspool. We're talking about people's lives here, Mr. Speaker. This pesticide has been shown to harm women, children, and families. It has no place on our farms or in our food system. Our health should not be for sale. It isn't hard to connect the dots here. The EPA abruptly reversed its efforts to ban a toxic chemical just weeks after the chemicals manufacturer made a political contribution to the newly elected president. And we know their decision wasn't based on science. The former head of the EPA's Office of Chemical Safety and Pollution Prevention suggested that the Trump EPA is, quote, ignoring the science that is pretty solid, end quote, and putting farm workers and exposed children at unnecessary risk. Now, I can see how people might start to wonder whether this administration is on the side of special interests or the American people. This amendment fights back against the corrupting influence of political contributions from pesticide companies. It would ensure that existing science-based protections for our families and our environment cannot be overturned by a well-timed contribution to President Trump or to those in his administration charged with implementing the law. The American people deserve to know that their leaders will stand up to protect their health and their safety rather than protecting the bottom line of wealthy special interests. I urge my colleagues to do the right thing and adopt this amendment and show the American people that our government is not for sale.
Gentleman from Massachusetts yields back the balance of his time.